Chapter 101, Battle of the Kings. As the night fell, Mocha Island was still brightly lit, and the huge beams of several anti-air searchlights swept across the dark sky from time to time. Although Kyabu said that Aokiji and Akainu would lead people to intercept Big Mom and Kaido, everyone knew that it was possible to block them. Although it was a general who made the move, the captain of the four sovereigns was not the only one there. The big pirates who offered a reward of more than 1 billion yuan under their command were all strong men across the sea. And Big Mom and Kaido have the ability to fly. God knows if they will abandon the pirates and come directly to Mocha Island. Jimmy has been severely regulated by 3000, and the little Bian versus the big wave of hot girls has been staged. Mo Lee, who is alone in the vacant room, even walks Kumik, and 3000 will accompany him. Because big hooligans are untrustworthy, maybe in her heart, she may only be allowed to play hooligans on her own. In a certain area of the Great Route, a huge dragon-head pirate ship is breaking through the waves and sailing fast. Cabin, Captain's room. Master Kaido, it will probably arrive at Long Rabbit Island tonight, and it will arrive at Mocha Island tomorrow evening. A navigator reported loudly to Kaido, who is drinking heavily. Ah, I see, that idiot Jack, what a shame, but that navy named Lychee. It's really damn. Kaido put down the wine gourd and roared furiously. Fuzz Fu, one of Kaido's confidants, one of the 6 sons of the sky, said ponderingly, Kaido, isn't it too embarrassing for Jack to be a big kanban? Let me take his place. Huh, Fuzzy Fow, if you're going to be promoted to the big kanban, challenge yourself to replace this kind of thing. Kaido's voice fell, he took another gulp of wine, and suddenly glared at Fuzz Fu. How is it possible? You have to fight and use strength to grab power, Fuzz Fu. I see, then wait for stupid Jack to come back, will you give me a chance to challenge him? Fuzz F asked. As you wish, Kaido said without saying a word. The former CP9 member, Fuzz Fu, has been coveting the big kanban position ever since he led the pirates to join Kaido's Beasts Pirates. With the form of cat fruit, ancient species and saber-toothed tiger, he fully integrates the ability of animal fruit into the 6 styles. With the blessing of animal devil fruit, Fuzzy Fu has a more sensitive speed and a strong physique. The fusion of strength and skill makes his combat ability stronger than other, Vali 6 sons. This is also the basis for his threat to challenge the position of the big kanban. This time Kaido attacked himself, without Jin and Quinn, but because he was idle on the Ghost Island after completing the task, he followed Kaido to the Great Route. Suddenly, a panicked voice sounded. Boss Kaido, Redhead Shanks is here. Huh, what is he here for? To stop Lao Su like last time. Boom. The wine gourd burst into pieces. Kaido was furious. Fight. On the Black Sea, the sky is full of dark clouds, the sea is dark, 2 pirate ships, 2 emperors on this sea. At this moment, because of one thing, it collided again. Kaido held the 8 fasts, he suppressed his anger and walked onto the bow of the boat, standing on the dragon head. Redhead, are you going to stop Lao Su like you did last time? Shanks looked at Kaido in a state of rage. He knew that he didn't need to say anything more to Kaido now. Griffin has long been held in Shanks' hands, a western sword known for its strength and grace of griffins. Kaido, come on, I'll take your head. Shanks is also standing above the dragon head, the Emperor's aura is undoubtedly revealed, and the extremely domineering overlord domineering arrogance bursts from his body, bombarding the beast Kaido like the evil ghosts howl like Shirasine. Ahahaha, take my head, red hair, how dare you say that? Kaido's voice fell, and the 8 fasting precepts were wrapped in blue lightning, and the breath of rage caused Kaido's beard and hair to grow. Shanks also reached the peak of his momentum, Griffin's sword trembled slightly, and the thunder and lightning caused by the domineering arrogance of the Emperor jumped on the sword. There is no sign, and it seems like a common understanding of the strong. The 2 of them disappeared at the dragon head of the ship at the same time. Boom. Between the 2 ships, the beast Kaido and the red-haired Shanks collided violently and reunited. The overlord colors of the two people collided fiercely in the air, the king's aptitude, the emperor's domineering, and countless blue and red dark thunders rushed between the two. The two breaths collided, bitten, and ripped apart the sky. The dark clouds in the sky rolled and split into two halves, falling thunder that illuminated the entire sky, and the sea stirred up tens of meters of huge waves. Redhead, you, who only have one arm, want to stop me, then let me see. During the conversation, the two bounced away and stood on the bow again. Kaido changed his body shape, showing a human beast form that was more conducive to fighting. Waving the iron bar, 8 fasts, he swept the red-haired Shanks with a powerful offensive. Thundering, gossip. Shanks didn't say much. He clenched a long knife in his right hand, and disappeared in place in an instant. The power of the king broke the dawn, and the dark thunder exploded. Under the sky, full of domineering and domineering. It has not yet collided, but it has been cracked and struck by endless thunder. Boom. Boom. Huge lightning fell from the sky between the two of them and between the two ships. Although I have seen it many times, every time I watch the battle between monsters like them, I am still shocked. Jesus Cloth carried the spear and hugged his shoulders, his eyes were full of shock. Ah, the King of the Sea is not a simple name. Ben Beckman looked up at the two people who were deadlocked in the air. Ha ha, would Vice Captain Beckman feel that way? Lackey Lu laughed while holding the drumstick. Reiki Lu's laughter also caused others to laugh. They all know that the Deputy Captain Ben Beckman has a super high IQ and also has a super strength that is not inferior to Shanks. Ben Beckman nodded solemnly and said, compared to these monsters, I'm just an ordinary person. The moment Beckman's voice fell, everyone in the captain was stunned, and this moment seemed extraordinarily quiet. Everyone stared blankly at Ben Beckman. PFF'd. Reiki Lu couldn't help it at first. Ha 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 ha. Then everyone laughed out loud. The world of pirates believed in the strong, and strategy and IQ alone could not achieve the position of the deputy captain of the 4 emperors. Fuzzfu looked at the two people in the air, and swept a circle around the ship. Many pirates had been shaken and fainted, and the pirate ship couldn't bear the impact of the aftermath of the battle between the two. Hey, Kaido, stop first, the ship won't be able to bear it. Boom. Shanks and Kaido are separated again. Kaido stood at the bow of the ship, squinting at Fuzzfu and roaring, noisy. Shut me up, Fuzzfu. On the red-haired side, Beckman also said, Shanks is almost done, led Kaido to Katra Island first. I see. Redhead. Kaido let out a loud shout and flashed the sky again. Shanks glared angrily, dodging to meet. The two changed positions in the sky several times and collided violently. The overlord color exploded, ravaging this sky and ocean. After another confrontation, Shanks looked at Kaido with a frown, thinking to himself that it was almost time. Come on, Kaido. Boom. Shanks roared and fought Kaido with a sword, and the dark energy erupted to knock Kaido back. Shanks fell on the bow and shouted, Go. Ah, damn red hair. Kaido fell on the boat, and a huge iron rod smashed into the bow of the boat. Kaido in the form of a human and beast was terrifying and roared like thunder. Follow me. Chapter 102, CP0 Dispatched. The confrontation between Kaido and Shanks soon appeared in the hands of the 5 old stars in the form of a report. It's really strange that the traitor Fuzzfu didn't take a shot when he saw the red hair. The 5-star star with curly hair, like a judge, said. The redhead seems to be thinking the same way as us, and even contacted Kaido first, said the straight-haired old man with a goatee. He also has his purpose, but we don't know it for the time being. Pirates will always be pirates. The old man with the knife said solemnly. The existence of traitors will only make CP lose its mystery and inform CP0 to deal with Fuzzfu. And the most important point, tell them not to appear in the sight of Limo. If the CP is killed, it will be our loss, and it will take a lot of time to train them. The square-faced old man with yellow beard and hair flipped through the documents in his hand, and said in a deep sigh, Moli is still very young, and that exaggerated combat power seems to be about to become a hidden danger. Everyone was silent. The 5 old stars, representing the 5 equal parts of the rights of the Tianlong people under the Void Throne. As the world government's obvious combat power group, the Navy has the most resources and manpower, but it does not mean that they have the right to speak in front of these 5 people. Various espionage organizations and the God's Army, which is only loyal to the Tianlong people, are also combat power groups. Since Mo Li was born to the present, the combat power he has displayed has the decisive strength to turn the tide of the battle. Threats and hidden dangers are naturally something they need to consider. In Nuoda's room, the silent 5 old star, the bald-headed and bearded old man sitting on the sofa suddenly said, "Let's see first, such a huge combat power can still enjoy privileges. At present, he has no choice for the Admiral of the Navy. There is no clear indication of which person to support. Quote, and someone like him deserves the same treatment and rights as Carp, and it's ours. Then let's wait and see. Although the timing is not the right time, it is still necessary to establish majesty." In the office of the Warring States Marshal. Warring States looked at the latest report on the table, and his face was sinking. Lieutenant General Crane flipped through the report, thoughtfully, and after a while, said, "Simply put, the red hair took the place of Sakazuki and intercepted Kaido. While implementing the plan for us, it also disrupted the plan." The Warring States, known as a wise general, figured out all kinds of joints in an instant, and he said, "You mean, the purpose of red hair is the same as ours? Kaido has been implicated in too many countries and forces, and it can affect the whole body, so don't move Kaido and wait for the report of Drake's follow-up mission." Lieutenant General Crane threw the report on the table at will, and continued his analysis. "It should be like this, and this report was sent by the CP organization, so that means the 5 old stars also mean the same." Warring States suddenly sighed. "Hey. The war situation has become treacherous, and our plan seems to be disrupted." Lieutenant General Crane shook her head. Her eyes were deep and wise. She said softly, "No, this is the opportunity for Kuzan and Sakazuki, the Warring States period, let them toss the front line. Isn't there also Kizaru and Mo Li is here?" That's all. A few minutes later, the 3 generals had the report on the Warring States desk in their hands. In the temporary operation base on Naga Rabbit Island, after reading the report, Akainu changed his irritability from the past, and calmly looked at a chart. Compared to the calm Akainu who has changed from normal, the ghost spider on the side is much more violent. "Sakazuki, what are we going to do? If you rush into Katra Island, you will be besieged by Red Hair and Kaido," Daubman said. "Well, that's the fight of the pirates, let them fight first and let them consume. We are the closest to Katla Island, but we can't rashly join the war. First notify Mo Li of Mocha Island to come here to support us, and Kizaru will go to support Kuzan." After Akainu finished speaking, he leaned back on his chair and lit a cigar while watching the crowd. "Do you want to notify Kuzan?" Daubman asked. Akainu shook his head. He knows what to do. Big Mom is going to pass through Inkudong Island, so Kuzan and Kizaru will stop them first. We will gather our strength to defeat Kaido and Red Hair, and then support Kuzan. Like, will he agree with Kuzan? The ghost spider asked. Akainu heard the words, glanced at the ghost spider, and said solemnly, "That guy should think the same way, although the idea is different, but as long as he is not an idiot, he will not be clever at this time." Aokiji stood on the coast of Yinkudong Island, looking at the dark sky and sea, holding a report in his hand. After thinking for a long time, he said to the flying squirrel behind him, "Notify Pulsalino, support Inkodan Island." Flying Squirrel nodded, then asked, "Where's Mo Li?" "Little brother Mo Li." Chingzi thought about it and said, "Let him support Sakazuki." Chingzi's voice fell, and everyone behind him was stunned, but they quickly recovered and dispersed. Aokiji moved his neck, scratched his head, and sighed. Things have become complicated. On Mocha Island, Mo Li, who was already asleep, was abruptly called by the yellow monkey to the coffee shop. "Pop. A document was thrown in front of the sleepy Moli by Kizaru. Moli yawned, rubbed his eyes, and asked with an unhappy expression, "What is this?" Huang Yuan pouted. "Look at it." Moli reluctantly flipped through the documents, and said with a frown, "Is the red hair the one who was forced to save face during the headquarters war?" Kizaru nodded. "It's him, the famous Iron Wall pirates in the New World, and one of the 4 emperors." Moli frowned, took a sip of the juice that Sanshin handed over, and pouted. "It's the 4th emperor again, what's wrong? Is this the nest of the 4th emperor? Or is the 4 emperors worthless?" Kizaru shrugged and didn't answer Li's question, but said, "Now Kaido and Red Hair have both gone to an island over Sakazuki called Katra Island." "Oh, Katla Island." Moli nodded and asked, "What do you want to fix?" "I'm going to support Kuzan and fight against Big Mom, and you'll support Sakazuki." After Kizaru finished speaking, he felt that he might not understand what he said. Not good. So he quickly added, "You go to Long Rabbit Island where Sakazuki is first, let Kaido and Red Hair fight first, consume each other, and then follow Sakazuki's arrangement to participate in the war." Kizaru looked at the drowsy Moli and said helplessly, "Moli, did you hear me?" "Huh." Moli drooped his eyelids and looked at Huang Yuan, rubbed his face vigorously, and said, "I know." Then he waved his hand. "Let's go quickly. If you arrive tomorrow morning, you can still have breakfast in time." At the port of Mocha Island, Li took Jimmy and Sanchian to board the fastest warship in the Navy. Kizaru looked at Moli who was leaving, turned to Lieutenant General Gumir and said, "Gumir, I'll leave it to you here." Gumir nodded. "Don't worry." Kizaru also boarded the warship and headed to Yinkudong Island where Kuzan is located. On the warship, the sailors looked at each other in a daze. It was still 3,000 and 1,000 who pushed Moli. "Wake up, which island shall we go to support?" "Ah." Moli looked at Sanchian in a daze. "Which island to go to?" "Which island? Support." "Oh, let's go to Katla to support." Chapter 103. Big Mom's Route. After nearly 3 hours of chasing, Kaido and the Red Hair finally stood on the ground of Katla Island. Kaido is not a fool. Behind this chase, there must be some kind of purpose behind the Red Hair. Kaido stood on the beach of Katla Island with his back to the sea, carrying a huge iron rod, looking at the red-haired more than 10 meters away, no longer looking like he was furious before. He said, "Red-haired, you led me here. For what purpose?" "Kaido, go back to Wano country," Shanks said calmly. "The Whitebeard who used to be closest to the throne has passed away, and the corner of the New World has been chaotic, but it is not out of balance, because the 3 people under the throne are still the natural moat for all pirates to lead to the throne. There is only one throne, but there are 3 emperors. With the qualifications of kings, how can they be judged? Kaido, the strongest creature in the sea, land and air, is even more so." When he heard that the Red Hair was almost commanding, Kaido's long-suppressed emotions were instantly ignited. "Redhead, stop joking. As a pirate, the man standing at the top of this sea is thinking about unrealistic things. On this sea, from ancient times until now, only the victor is the king. Captain Rox is like this, Roger is like this, and the strange old man with Whitebeard is like this, of course. The world government is even more like this. Red Hair, your outfit is outdated. You timid as a mouse, hurry up and call out the historical text, and then go to the end of the world to play your pirate playhouse game." Kaido's face was mad and ferocious, clasping his iron fist and roaring loudly. Kaido recognized Shanks' strength but never recognized what Shanks did as a pirate. "Kaido, the wave of the new age has come, and the secrets of this world await the one who will uncover it. But not you." Kaido's roar interrupted Shanks, and the huge strange force stepped out of the deep pit under his feet, and instantly swept in front of Shanks, and the iron rod wrapped around the thunder and lightning struck. Shanks' eyes flashed red, and the famous knife griffin blocked. Boom! When the two collided, the earth shattered inch by inch, and the majestic momentum was like 2 green and red evil ghosts roaring in the air. Day, as usual, I fucking cracked. Just when Kaido and Redhead changed from spraying to slashing, the Big Mom pirates also received information. Perospero walked into the cabin, looked at the Big Mom Charlotte Lingling who was gluttonously eating dessert, and said, "Mom, there is new information coming. The red-haired Shanks and Kaido are fighting on the island of Catra." "Ah, Catra Island. Where is that?" A sharp voice sounded. The ant held the delicate cream cake in both hands, paused, turned her head and asked. "An uninhabited deserted island in the south, Yinkudong Island in front. According to the report of the Vanguard, Aokiji has been deployed there, waiting to block when we pass by." Perospero said. Well. Are you going to block me just by the green pheasant?" Grandma laughed wildly. After the laughter, the ant's eyes flashed with a dangerous light. "The Navy already knew that I would come, so did the Navy set up a special line of defense. That is to say, our target Mocha Island must be very empty." Perospero looked at the ant who was full of danger and said quickly, "Mom, why don't we bypass the eyes and ears of the Navy on Yinkudong Island, divert the coastline of Rabbit Island and go straight to Mocha Island? Not only can we attack the empty and helpless Mocha Island, and it's easy to rescue Smoothie." Auntie looked at her eldest son, Perospero, while eating desserts as high as a hill. Perospero looked nervously at Big Mom, the Big Mom pirates. Big Mom's children are the crew members, and the captain's order is the mother's order. Of course, the names of the children are like pirates. They are worthless, and there are many outstanding characters, such as Katakuri, the head of the three generals, and Telegia, but they are more of a marriage tool to realize the ant's success in all countries. Dream. Lola's escape turned the giant prince's face, and after the plan to win over the giants failed, she turned her attention to Doflamingo's underground giant experiment. Did Kaido also have a deal with Doflamingo? Perospero. Yes, Kaido and Doflamingo have signs of a trade, but don't know what the traded items are. Although Perospero didn't know why Auntie suddenly asked this, out of fear and loyalty, he didn't dare to lie. Red hair really gets in the way. Following Aunt's cold voice, Perospero's pupils shrank, and he had a bad premonition. "Perospero, you and Katakuri divert to Long Rabbit Island, go straight to Mocha Island, and put to death the guy who destroyed the cake boat." Mom, then you. Well, I'm going to kill that redhead who gets in the way." After the voice fell, his face became hideous, and he said, "Roger's crew, then the position of the historical text, presumably he should you know that too." Mom. Perospero was speechless in shock. "Are the kings on the sea going to start fighting?" "Zeus." The ant shouted, and Lei Zeus, who was sleeping beside him, woke up instantly. Mom. Prometheus. The little son also got close to the ant. Boom, boom, boom. Big Mom got out of the cabin, jumped on Zeus, and headed straight for Catra. Perospero, what you should say. Katakuri came out of the cabin, looked at the ant who flew far away, and said. Katakuri. Perospero turned to look at Katakuri. He shook his head. "I dare not lie to my mother." Katakuri no longer looked at Perospero, but at the sea level where Big Mom was no longer visible. Suddenly, a red light flashed in his pupils. After a while, he shook his head. Although his arrogance can briefly foresee the future, he can't really see the future. Katakuri still couldn't see what kind of battle between the emperors would take place. The Navy's new warships abandoned the main guns and long-range guns of the ship's bow, which made the warships lose weight while increasing their speed. The hull is longer than normal patrol ships, and the width is narrower. Li Kie, who was on the warship, boredly watched Sanchin and Jimmy eat. They eat very slowly, chewing very finely, and they have to chew 20 or 30 bites of bread. Of course, it wasn't their intention, but they couldn't eat it anymore, so they stuffed it into their stomachs. Limo fiddled with the wine glasses on the table, sighed, and said, "If you are nervous, you can watch from a distance, and you don't have to fight." Sanchin hurriedly explained, No, we are not nervous, we just want to eat. Don't you think we have searched a lot? Yes, yes, we are too thin, and we are thinking about gaining weight recently. Jimmy also nodded frantically like a chicken pecking at rice. Looking at the two of them, Lee Kie couldn't help but smile bitterly. Are these two fools? Chapter 104. They've all gone astray. There is a plan called not keeping up with change. There is also a plan called it's better not to have it. This is the state at this time. Aokiji was actively preparing for the battle on Yinkudong Island, waiting for the support of this yellow monkey to intercept Big Mom, and the yellow monkey was also on his way to Yinkudong Island. But what they didn't know was that their target, the Big Mom pirates, took a detour to Long Rabbit Island. Akainu was nervously monitoring the battle of the Twin Emperors on Katla Island, waiting for Lee Kie's support, preparing to inflict heavy damage or even annihilate Kaido and Shanks. But the dazed Li Heng didn't understand Kizaru's instructions, just listened to Katra Island in a daze, and passed by. Big Mom is even more outrageous. Hearing that Kaido is fighting with the red hair, he rushed over to kill the red hair and snatch the secret of the historical text. There are also two Sengoku and Suru in the Navy headquarters who were heartbroken for this war. Painful planning, brainstorming improvisation, and then nothing. The most fucking outrageous thing is that they are still weighing the pros and cons in Marijoya, preparing to check and balance the 5 old stars of all parties. They did not expect that they would not follow the script they made. The red-haired acted on his own accord. It can be said that the entire Warring States battle plan was disrupted by the head of the Red Hair Pirates, Ben Beckman. However, it was impossible for Ben Beckman to think that Big Mom would think this was an opportunity, and went straight to Katra Island. It can be said that it is all messed up now, because the red-haired mess has changed from the trouble of Ant and Kaido looking for Moli to the temptation of the historical text. Instead, besiege the red-haired Shanks. And Akainu, who was looking forward to Moli, never thought that a few hours later, Katakuri would pass by his line of defense with the Big Mom pirates. All her mother messed up into a pot of porridge. It was still a light blue sky, and in the blink of an eye, a red glow appeared on the horizon, slowly expanding its range. Speaking of which, this is the first time I've seen the sunrise on the sea. Limo stood on the deck and looked at the endless horizon. A red sun without light slowly rose. That's because the sun will be so high when you get up. Jimmy approached, holding a plate in both hands with a glass of milk on it. Thank you. Moli stared blankly at the milk. After a while, he thanked him, then took a sip of the milk and put it on the tray. Aren't you finished? Jimmy asked softly, looking at the half glass of milk left. Limo turned his head to look at the sunrise, then shook his head again, and said softly, "It's so pure." Jimmy shrugged and walked away with the milk in his hand. This was the first time Moli had drank milk in this world in years. Back then, my mother would also prepare a glass of pure milk and put it on the table. Whether Moli was practicing knives or going to school, no matter what time Moli got off the boat, her mother would get up first and get ready, so she had to drink it all up. Of course, for Moli, pure milk couldn't accept the taste. Now Limo, who is alone in this world, will drink pure milk again. Hey, it turns out, it's really pure. Sanchin saw that Moli's mood was rarely low. She was a little nervous. She walked gently to Moli's side, her lips wriggled a few times, just about to speak. As soon as he looked up, he saw that Moli was turning his head to look at him. Sanchin's face turned as red as a tomato. Moli looked at Sanchin with a blushing face and asked with a smile, "What's wrong?" Sanchin shook his head vigorously, took a deep breath, and said cautiously, "I saw that you were feeling a little down just now. What happened?" After he finished speaking, he thought for a while, and finally summoned up the courage to look directly into Lee Kia's eyes. "Can I know?" Moli looked at Sanchian's cautious appearance, smiled knowingly, stroked Sanchian's silver white hair, and said with a light smile, "Of course you can. I am missing a middle-aged woman who has broken her heart for her family." Sanchin was stunned for a while, then reacted and said, "Is that Moli's mother?" Limo looked back at the sun that had already risen completely. The beauty of the sunrise was fleeting, and in the blink of an eye it was a scene again. He nodded. Major General Lee, how to land on Katra Island in an hour? A Navy suddenly reported loudly. After thinking about it, Lee Kie said, you don't need to land, you all go back. There are no heavy-fire naval guns on this ship, so it's useless for you to go. Ah, yes. Although the Navy is a little embarrassed, this kind of war is really not something they can participate in. Inkoden Island. Kuzanyo, hasn't Big Mom come yet? Kazaru walked to the shoreline and asked Aokiji, who was standing beside the cannon. Shinzi shook his head, sat on the cannon stand, and said lazily, no, I'm not sure if this is the route I'm taking. I was just guessing at the beginning, maybe I won't come over and go straight to Mocha. Maybe the island too. Kazaru nodded, bit his cigarette and said, then wait, I don't know what's going on with Sakazuki. Hearing Kazaru mention Akainu, Aokiji turned his head to look at Kazaru, and asked with some deep meaning, Pelusalino and Sakazuki are from the same period and from the same hometown, right? Huh, yes, but don't worry, the old man is neutral. This kind of trouble, the old man has never been involved. Huang Yuan glanced at Qing Pheasant, he knew what Qing Pheasant wanted to ask. Aokiji nodded when he heard the words, and wanted to say something else, but when the words came to his mouth, he still didn't say it. He's not a Kainu after all. Rabbit Island. Isn't Moli here yet? At the speed of a new warship, 8 hours should be here. Akainu was a little anxious. Kaido and Redhead had been fighting for 5 hours on the island of Katra, and the entire island of Katra had been destroyed by a quarter. Not yet. No one answered the phone bug, maybe something delayed, Daubman said. Damn, this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to kill them all, what is Lee Kie doing? Akainu's eyes flashed with anxiety and anger. Report. A Navy shouted from outside the door. Come in. Akainu's voice sounded almost at the same time as the report. It can be seen how tense Akainu is at this time. A Navy pushed in the door, gave Akainu a military salute, and then reported loudly, Mr. Admiral. The northern cruiser sent a report that the Big Mom pirates were found off the coast of Naga Rabbit Island. What? Not only Akainu was shocked, but even the Ghost Spider and Daubman in the office were surprised. Are you sure? Daubman asked hastily. Yes. Ghost Spider looked at Akainu. Sakazuki, what to do? Akainu's face was a little gloomy. Pursue. Since they're all here, you can't let them go. At the same time, notify the headquarters in Kuzan, and let them come here to support. Yes. Akainu clenched his teeth. The Katla Island in the south was still fighting, and the trouble in the north came again, and Lee didn't know where it was yet. At this moment, Akainu's heart is tired. Chapter 105, Big Mom Fights Across the Sea. After an hour. Along the coastline of Katra Island, the navies on the warship stood on the deck watching the roars from the Katra Island. Dark clouds rolled wildly over the island, and from time to time terrifying razors slammed down. Moli and the others also met the surveillance ship sent by Chong Rabbit Island. Moli took Sanchin and Jimmy to the warship on Long Rabbit Island. When the captain who was monitoring the warship saw that Moli was coming, his nose suddenly became sour, and he almost cried while hugging Moli's thigh. God knows how terrified they were when they watched Kaido and Shanks. Major General Moli. Mr. Moli. Mo, Rear Admiral Moli. Surveilled the Navy on the ship and surrounded Moli. All cheer me up. Don't show weakness. Mr. Moli will lead us to victory. An exhilarating roar not only silenced the Navy, but also attracted Moli's attention. Limo looked at a big man with a ponytail coming up with his head held high. He always felt familiar, but he couldn't name it. The man walked in and said respectfully, Mr. Moli has met again. Moli was a little embarrassed. People knew him, but he didn't know him anymore. Perhaps seeing Moli's embarrassment, the man laughed loudly. Mr. Moli, when he was off Saipan, he fought side by side with Mr. Moli in Marin Fando. Oh tilde. Moli remembered instantly. He looked at Saipan and asked tentatively, Iron. This time it was Saipan's turn to be a little embarrassed. He scratched his head and said embarrassedly, "It's down." "Oh, well," Limo replied, then turned to look at Katra Island and licked his lips. "Are they all on it?" In fact, what Molly asked was if Red Hair, Kaido, and Akainu were on it, because he was in a daze when he listened to Kyabu at the time, and he didn't know what it was, but only knew to support Akainu and Katla Island. Saipan thought that Molly would ask Red Hair and Kaido again, so he answered affirmatively, "Yes, Mr. Lee, they are all on the island." "Okay, I'll go to the island to support them first, and you can mobilize warships to support me." After Lee said, he looked at Sanchin and Jimmy, "You two come with the warship, I'll go first." When the voice fell, Lee Kie jumped to the sea, and quickly ran towards Katla Island. The somewhat confused Saipan looked at Molly who had run away, and turned his head to look at Sanchian. "Excuse me, Mr. Molly is going to support them." "What did they mean?" "General Akainu," Sanchin said. "Ah, Admiral Akainu is not on Katla Island," Saipan roared. "What did you say?" Sanchin asked with a frown. Saipan nodded frantically in horror and shouted, "General Akainu is on Nagato Island." Sanchin and Jimmy looked at each other. In the waters to the north of Naga Rabbit Island, the 7 Sioux warships are chasing the Queen Chant of the pirate ship of Big Mom. Parosparrow, who licked the fruit, created several layers of syrup barriers, but facing Akainu's magma could not avoid the result of instantaneous melting. Boom, boom, boom. 7 warships with a total of 21 main guns. Each round of bombardment requires everyone on board to resist. Charlotte Daifuku, the transpiration fruit capable, summoned the devil to resist the cannonball and shouted hurriedly, "Katakuri, retreat first, and then go to pick up Mother after getting rid of Akainu." Hearing this, Katakuri cast a gloomy glance at Daifuku, looking at the warship chasing at the stern, and the General Akainu standing on the bow holding his shoulders. After thinking for a moment, he shouted loudly, "All retreat." Parosparrow suddenly turned his head and glared at Katakuri. "Katakuri, Mom is still in Katla, how could we give up on her?" In fact, Parosparrow is not worried about the safety of Ant at all. Although he is a family member, he is also a pirate, and they all have personal experience of Big Mom's ruthlessness towards his children. Moreover, Parosparrow and the 3 brothers Katakuri, Owen, and Daifuku are the Rocks pirates that many aunts joined after they were born. They know the cruelty and coldness of the pirate world. Parosparrow was just unhappy with Deck's order to Kudakururi. In his heart, even if his mother died, then he should be the captain of the pirates. Katakuri saw through his careful thoughts in an instant, but at the moment of the enemy, Katakuri did not want to entangle with him, just answered coldly. "Parosparrow, get rid of what they're talking about." On the bow of the warship, Akainu, whose face was as cold as ice, was looking at the Big Mom's pirate ship ahead. He wondered why Big Mom didn't come out to fight back, but let the Navy bombard him, and only Kudakuri and the others showed up. General Sakaski, Major General Saipan, who was in charge of monitoring Katra Island, called to report. "Major General Molly has landed on Katra Island." A signal soldier hurriedly ran behind Akainu to report loudly. "What did you say?" Akainu turned around and growled. At this time his anger value had reached its peak. 1 or 2 are not executed according to plan. Will they all just mess up? Return. Support Katla Island. After nearly an hour of chasing, Big Mom never showed up, which made Akainu suspect that the gluttonous old woman didn't come or was not on the ship at all. And now that Lee Kie has landed on Katla Island, if he continues to chase, he will lose the best time to attack Kaido and the Redhead. So Akainu did not struggle, but directly ordered to support Katla Island. At the same time, Aokiji and Kyabu, who received a call from Sakaski an hour ago, were surprised that Big Mom appeared on Rabbit Island, but the center of the war had shifted to Katra Island and Rabbit Island. Then the 2 of them waiting and arming on Inkouden Island also make sense. Immediately, 10 warships set sail and went straight to Chengtu Island. Limo, who had just landed on Katla Island, saw two men, one tall and one short, fighting in the distance. Those two people are obviously the four emperors that Lao Sa said. The power they exude during the battle, they raise their hands to attract thunder and lightning, and the battle slashes from the blades ravage the earth. Molly was a little excited with the hilt of the knife. No doubt, they were also as strong as Whitebeard. Boom, boom, boom. Molly was about to step forward when he heard the sound of the warship firing shells frantically behind him. Molly turned to look in confusion, and saw a fat woman like a little giant, stepping on a big black cloud. Her head was wrapped in a violently burning flame, carrying a large knife with teeth and eyes towards her. Come quickly. 3,000 and their warships were firing at the fat woman, but the woman ignored the warship and went straight to the island. Limo was startled, looked at the big mom coming across the sea, and shouted in shock. Fuck, somersault cloud. Chapter 106, The Three Emperors Stand. Big Mom across the sea made Kaido and Shanks, who had been fighting for several hours, confront each other again. Strong physical fitness, super strength and stamina, and fighting for hours, didn't show any signs of exhaustion for any of them. Everyone on the island looked at the female among the four emperors, the monster who killed the Elbaf giant hero at the age of 5, a woman with a steel-like body and an unimaginable power. My situation on Katla Island became more and more chaotic, and the three sea emperors gathered here for unknown reasons. Saipan on the warship saw that the four emperors were ignoring him, and without hesitation, he took out the phone bug and dialed the number of the headquarters. Big Mom means that the Navy's plan is completely in vain, and the time-consuming and labor-intensive interception and blocking are completely useless. At this time, all the troops on Katla Island were only one warship and several people, Li Mo, who had arrived directly here for no apparent reason. The Warring States period hung up the phone with a livid face, and urgently called the three generals. Go straight to Katra Island and support Li Mo. Since the time of Kaido and the Red-Haired War, the meaning of the Warring States period is to let them kill each other and consume, but Mori landed on the island and directly disrupted the plan, coupled with the sudden attack of the gluttonous old woman. This led to the complete failure of the naval plan. After thinking about it for a long time, Sengoku got up and picked up the cloak of justice and put it on his shoulders. At the same time, he said to Lieutenant General Crane, "Notify Maryjo as Peach Rabbit to dispatch, and prepare the warship for us to go to Katra Island to support." Lieutenant General Crane thought more. She said, "The Tianlong people may not let Tautu be dispatched. After all, Mary Joa needs high-end combat power protection. The actions of the Navy are no longer a secret, and the whole world is watching. If the Peach Rabbit is dispatched, it is not known that the incident of Fisher Tiger will happen again." Hearing that, the Warring States period lowered his eyebrows and said solemnly, "One T-Dolphin is enough, and the strength of a general candidate is enough." Tsurumi Sengoku's decision, he will not say more. For a time, the situation changed. Aokiji and Kayabu, who set off from Yinkudong Island to support Nagato Island, were stunned when they received the order. Why did the three of them fight on Katra Island? Why did Li Kie go directly to Katla Island? But now is not the time to struggle with this. The most calm of the three generals is Akainu Sakazuki, because a series of emergencies have made his heart as cold as a butcher knife. There is no self-confidence, no plan, bullshit plan, only honest people follow the rules. At the speed of the fastest warship, in about 2 hours, Akainu will be able to reach Katla Island from this sea-chasing category. Katla Island. Kaido raised the huge iron rod, pointed at Big Mom, and roared furiously, "Ling Ling. I said it. If you get in the way, I will kill you." In midair, the ant who directly ignored Li Kie ran to the battlefield and jumped down from the thunder cloud Zeus in a volley. Ant Napoleon, holding a large sword, looked around this devastated battlefield with tyrannical eyes. The three emperors on the sea faced each other again. "Well, Kaido, let's put our grievances aside for the time being. Isn't your fight with this kid also for the historical text?" After the ant finished speaking, she looked at the one-armed and domineering man. There was a bit of joking in the crazy eyes. Let's work together to solve this red-haired boy first, and then we can fight after we get the historical text. Kaido. Ah, Kaido heard the words and turned his eyes to Ant. Ant's proposal made him angry. He didn't need the beast Kaido at all. Without further ado, the Overlord awe-inspiring aura swept the earth, and the pitch-black iron rod called 8 Fastings was wrapped in dark thunder and lightning. While facing Kaido's domineering, the Ant glared angrily, and a domineering arrogance that looked down on Kaido came out. The Emperor on the sea is like a mad ghost biting at this time. The dark clouds rolled in the air, and the long-awaited purple thunder pillars crashed down like a signal for war. Thundering. Gossip. Weo. The sky collapsed and the earth cracked, and the clash of emperors ripped apart the sky. The powerhouse that has emerged in the Rocks era is indeed the case. Big Mom, and the gap between the confrontation with Kaido, gave Shanks a chance to breathe. Don't think about it too much, just after Big Mom's words have been clear, it is aimed at him. Shanks suddenly retreated, temporarily staying away from the battlefield and returning to the crowd of the red-haired pirates watching the battle. Ha ha, boss, they're all here for you. Lackey Lou laughed heartlessly, not at all worried about the arrival of Big Mom. But the rest of the crew had stern eyes, and although they were not afraid, the situation was beyond Ben Beckman's plans. Shanks, if nothing else happens, the Navy is about to surround Junjo Island, and in a few hours, it will be like an iron barrel. Ben Beckman said in a deep voice. Shanks nodded. The fact that he is the crew of Roger One Piece is no longer a secret among the big pirates. The location and historical text of the final island. It's always been what they coveted, but only Shanks knew that he didn't go to Lovedrew at all in order to take care of the sick Bucky. For a moment, Ben Beckman has already made the best plan for them. Shanks, the situation is out of our control now, and the Navy who killed Whitebeard has landed on the island. What? He's here already? Is Vice Captain Beckman so powerful? Some crew members exclaimed, the shadow of the tree of human life, and everyone on the top of the live broadcast of the war saw Moli's shocking slash to kill the Whitebeard of the 4 emperors. Yes, although I don't know why he hasn't shot yet, but he's already here. Shanks, now is not the time to fight them, let's retreat for the time being. Before Ben Beckman could finish speaking, he suddenly looked in one direction with cold eyes, and said solemnly, he's here. Following Beckman's words, everyone followed his gaze. I saw Moli holding the handle of the knife in his left hand, biting a cigar, and walking slowly towards this side. For this lazy man with flaws all over his body, no one dared to be careless. Since his birth, so many great pirates have died under his hands, and they are all masters of the New World. The pirate alliance organized by Rhino Nara with a bounty of 700 million was killed by this man alone. Although the Navy has not disclosed the news, the paper has never been able to contain the fire. Shanks watched Moli approach a little bit, and while staring at Moli, he said to Beckman behind him, Beckman, take everyone to the boat and wait for me. Boss, let's deal with him together. The new pirate shouted loudly. Shanks shook his head and said firmly, I'm the captain. Withdraw. Shanks is enough, don't get in the way, obeying the captain's orders is the iron rule. After Ben Beckman finished speaking, he turned and left with the crew. Moli looked at the fleeing pirates, frowned slightly, and glanced at the 2 little giants who were slashing at each other in the distance. Moli ignored Shanks. With the force under his feet, the whole person rushed towards the fleeing red-haired pirates like an arrow from the string. The red-haired Shanks, who was staring at Moli, watched Moli move, and he disappeared instantly. Chapter 107. Ferocious saber-toothed tiger, add more to the bosses. Bang! Fist to fist. The fists collided, Shanks stood in front of Moli, and the fist wind stirred up ripples and waves, which spread to the surrounding. Huh, are you? Shanks. Shanks interrupted Lee's insipid inquiry. The appearance of this man not only disrupted Ben Beckman's plan, but also put his partner in danger. Shanks is determined not to let Lee hurt his partner. Ah, So, you seem to be the fourth emperor, right? Lee asked. Shanks clenched his teeth and forced Mo-Lee to retreat. At the same time, his body flashed, standing behind his partner's retreat, the western sword griffin clenched in his hand. 4 emperors. Who cares about that kind of thing? My name is Shanks, and I'm a pirate. Lee Mo looked at Shanks. He was about the same height as himself, and his body was not strong enough to block him with fist to fist. Mo-Lee couldn't help but have a little interest in him. Although you don't care, but the 4 emperors is a well-known name, that means you are as powerful as the old man with the white beard, right? Navy, are you really going to attack me and my mates? At this moment, Shanks was also conscious. The repeated chaotic battles and disrupted plans made the Emperor's heart feel restless. Mo-Lee stood with his knife drawn, looked at Shanks, and said with a sneer, if I beat you, it's not impossible to let them go. Isn't it all said to catch the thief first and catch the king? Shanks heard the words, and for words, the raised long knife had already indicated his attitude. The overlord that belongs to Shanks is strongly suppressed, unruly, with the domineering and wildness that belongs to Shanks. The trembling space, the momentum is like crushing sand and gravel vegetation in essence. In an instant, the sea of clouds rolled in the sky, the clouds in the sky were all split, and several blue and purple lightnings roared. Hey, as strong as a monster. Mo-Lee tilted his head to look at Shanks. You don't have the right to say that. With Shanks' words falling, he also disappeared in place, and the next moment Shanks appeared in the air directly above Mo-Lee. The griffin wrapped in armed color turned into a black knife, wrapped around black and red dark thunder. The king's sword slashed down. Mo-Lee's eyes narrowed slightly. Ying Dao Gang instantly turned to the blade of the saber, and the snow-white blade was even more silver-white. Block with a knife. When? Boom. 2 knives collide. In this unintelligible battle of emperors, Li Qiye officially intervened. When the 2 of them were in the center of the storm slash, the chaotic slashes between the 2 knives split the earth apart, and the blades stimulated between the 2 knives cut through the already turbulent airflow. The high wind pressure raged and poured down, and the ground beneath the 2 could no longer bear it, and it collapsed, forming a huge deep pit. Shanks' eyes were solemn. Seeing that he was blocked by Mo-Lee with a single blow, he stopped putting pressure on him. He turned around to dodge back, and glanced back at the pirates who had run away. However, how can the battle of the strong be distracted? Li Changdao changed hands, and his left hand held up the saber, instantly appearing in front of Shanks. At the moment when Mo-Lee disappeared, Shanks' arrogance was already perceived, and the danger of death caused Shanks to block with the left side of the knife. When the knives collided, Li Qiye discovered that Shanks' armament seemed to be much stronger than those he had fought against before, and he could actually stop him. Seeing the happy Li Qiye, he couldn't help but want to fight him more to see if Shanks had any other moves. At this time, Katla Island was divided into 2 battlefields, and Li Qiye and Shanks attacked with swords. Big Mom and Kaido are much more violent. The counter-bombing of pure power, each blow will break the mountain and break the sea. The 3,000 on the warship also led the navy to land on the island, and at the moment of landing on the island, they were blocked by the Empowerer Legion and the Delighter Legion led by Fuzzy Fu, one of Kaido's 6 sons of the sky. Miss Sanchin, that person is Fuzzy Fu from the Beast Pirates with a bounty of 546 million. Saipan pointed to Fuzz Fu, who was wearing a red mask, 2 horns, and smoking a cigarette among the Beast Pirates on the beach. What's up with those grotesque people? Jimmy asked, pointing to the givers who dashed toward the edge. Saipan shook his head. I don't know, but the momentum is not to be underestimated. No more crap. Sanchin took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, go to war. The voice fell, and the 3,001 horses rushed to Fuzzy Fu first, and Mo-Lee left, so of course, as the strongest 3,000 now, he must take responsibility. That is to solve the strongest person. Seeing the little navy girl in military uniform rushing towards him, he smiled coldly. Suddenly I got serious. Fuzz Fu's dagger was unsheathed, and a fierce light appeared, aiming at the 3,000 flying by, and slashing from the air. The short dagger actually triggered several sharp slashes, and the intensive slashes poured out like a hail of bullets towards the 3,000. Blade gun. It is the derivative technique of 6 forms that was learned in the original CP organization. Seeing the slashing all over the sky, Sanshin did not dare to be careless, and the ability to penetrate the fruit was activated instantly. The whole person seems to be transparent air, allowing the slash to pass through the body. At the moment of the piercing slash, Sanshin also came to Fuzzfu. That Moli randomly named it, but the physique skills that Sanshin readily accepted, the white-skinned right fist covered with a strong aura of armament. Nail fist, Chongzi fist. The black fist with the determination of 3,000, the shock wave exploded in the air. Boom, boom, boom. Fuzzy Fu only felt a powerful force rushed through his body. Whoosh. He quickly used Shave to dodge the attack, but before it was over, he jumped into the air, moved slightly sideways, and ripped apart the atmosphere with a flying kick. Land feet. A half-moon-shaped cyan slash galloped out. 3,001 shot down, facing Fuzzfu's moves. She knew that this pirate must have something to do with the Navy. Sanshin looked up at Fuzzfu, who was in the air, and the slashing slash was close at hand. Penetrate. The moment the ability was activated, the blue slash pierced through the body. Boom. The ground behind Sanshin was smashed into a ravine by Fuzzfu's slashing foot. After a round of contests, the two sides were tied. Fuzzfu also changed from contempt at the beginning to emphasizing 3,000. After a fight, 3,000 people looked at Fuzzy Fu with a puzzled look at the physical skills shown by Fuzzy Fu, and asked, "You should have been a member of the world government or the Navy before, right?" "Ha ha. Navy, did I underestimate you? What kind of abilities do you have? It's really useful." However, Fuzzfu answered the question wrongly. He was also testing the 3,000. The strange ability of the female Navy in front of him to penetrate the attack made him quite afraid. Sanshin pursed his lips and waited. Fuzzy Fu looked at the Navy and fought against me, the giver. Jimmy's flowing fruit ability is simply a nightmare for those who have low combat power and artificial devil fruit ability. Can't fight. Fuzzfu thought. I saw Fuzzfu's body swelled rapidly and his limbs transformed into sharp claws of beasts, a hideous face, and terrifyingly sharp saber-toothed fangs. It is the cat fruit, ancient species, saber-toothed tiger form. The strongest human beast. The scarlet eyes stared at the thin 3,000, and the murderous light was full of murderous intent. Want to know why I do 6? Fuzzfu grinned. I'll tell you when you're about to die. Chapter 108, Penetration. On the hidden edge of the coast of Katra Island, the CP organization secretly observed the battle between 3,000 and Fuzzfu. I didn't expect you to come so quickly. The clown-masked man whispered. It happened to be on a mission on a nearby island, replied the man in the cat face mask who was asked. When the clown-masked man heard him mention the task, he stopped talking. Although they belonged to the same organization, the content of the task was different. Not mentioning the content of the task was also the iron law of the CP organization. 5 old stars orders to get rid of Fuzzy Fu. After all, that man holds some secrets that are detrimental to the world government. The clown-masked man said. The cat-face masked man was silent for a while and said, "Let's talk about whether he can survive in Bei Sanshin's hands." Huh. The clown-masked man obviously didn't believe it. After all, he was a man who was comparable to Rob Ludge back then. The cat-faced masked man said in a meaningful way, "After all, it is Moli's subordinate. No matter whether he wins or loses, it is impossible for Fuzzy Fu to survive." His meaning was simple: 3,000 wins, and Fuzzfu would die. If 3,000 were defeated, Li Qiye would also kill Fuzzy Fu. Therefore, there is only one outcome for Fuzzfu and the 3,000 battles. Just when the two were watching secretly, the battle between Sanshin and Fuzzy Fu had already started with a low roar from Fuzzy Fu. Roar. Fuzzy Fooey shaved his hand and disappeared in front of San Qian. When the saber-toothed tiger reappeared, it was already in the air, and the moon stepped on the air. The power bonus of the animal-type devil fruit doubles the power and speed of Fuzz Fu. Sanchen looked up at the human-shaped murderer. Her eyes narrowed slightly, her fists clenched, and she made a gesture of confrontation. Is it going to attack in the air this time? The ferocity and fierceness that this guy showed when attacking was extraordinary. This made 3000 have to be 12 points full of energy, and the whole beach was covered with all the sights and hearings. That is to say, were you really from the world government and the Navy before? The 3000 voices fell, and her words were like a razor, reopening the scars that Fuzzy Fu had been dusty for a long time and could occur at any time. Fuzzy Fu's fierce light appeared, the beast's pupils were covered with bloodshots, a bloody mouth covered with sharp-edged fangs, and the shock wave formed by the bloody mouth of the fangs spurted out. Tooth gun. 3000 arms crossed, armed color hardened, ready to block this blow, although the ability to penetrate can avoid the attack, but every use is a consumption of her physical strength. Boom. The 3000 feet plowed by Fuzz Fu's attack and slid several meters. A trace of pain in her left arm told Sanchen that she hadn't completely blocked the attack. The arm hardened by the armed color was torn apart by the sharp teeth of the saber-toothed tiger. Ha ha, Navy, your armament can't stop my attack. Don't you use your abilities? Is there a limit to your ability? Is it physical strength, or is it limited in use? Fuzz Fu fell from the sky to the ground, his hideous face was laughing violently. Flee as hard as you can. Try to escape the fate of being eaten alive by me. Sanchen was unusually calm, and she didn't care about the wound on her left arm. The eyes she looked at Fuzz Fu were the same as when she first rushed to Fuzz Fu. Calm and firm. Still with that pair of fists divided to the left and right, the center of gravity is lowered and the calm appearance of the enemy. Ha ha ha, interesting, you are very skilled at using the armament color. Fuzzy Fu did not hesitate to praise him, and looked at San Qian with great interest, as if a tiger was playing with a young prey that could be swallowed at any time. Bang, bang, bang. Fuzz Fu stepped on the air again, and Moonstep flew over the top of Sanchen's head. Tooth gun, even. Saber-toothed fangs, fierce beasts attack. Countless saber-toothed shock waves slammed down like a shower, with the target pointing at 3000. Sanchianmei's eyes were dignified, although she had caught all the attacks with her domineering look, she couldn't avoid the intensive bombardment at her speed. Bet! Sanchen Nian roared inwardly, betting that he could dodge Fuzz Fu's attack with all his ability and time. Boom, boom, boom. The beach below 3000 feet was blasted with large craters, causing several meters of dust. And it's still bombarding. With the last shot in vain, the 3000 ability time has passed. At this time, the 3000 were already standing in a huge deep pit, and this piece of beach had been bombarded beyond recognition by Fuzz Fu. The eyelid 3000 activated the ability to dodge the attack again, and Fuzzy Fu grinned, I see how long you can dodge. Land feet. The cyan slash cut across the beach, heading straight for the 3000 speed attack. 3000 arms were hardened, and they swooped down against the slash. Just when he was about to hit the slash, his penetrating ability was activated instantly, and in just a split second, 3000 came to Fuzz Fu through the slash. The fists were pressed against Fuzz Fu's stomach. Double nail fist Chongzi fist. Two strong shock waves slammed into Fuzz Fu's abdomen, and the powerful shock waves penetrated through the strong body of the saber-toothed tiger and emerged from his back. Humph! The strong impact made Fuzzy groan, but he did not allow him to hesitate. The 3000 right hand grabbed Fuzz Fu's heart, and the armed color was disarmed. It was a white palm that quickly grabbed Fuzz Fu's heart in the shape of a claw. Not good. Shave. Fuzzy Fu's ankles exerted force and instantly disappeared in front of 3000. A few feet away, Fuzzy Fu covered his heart with horror in his eyes. He looked at Sanchian again, and there was a little more fear in his eyes. You You can not only penetrate the attack, but also penetrate the body. Are you trying to grab my heart just now? Sanchin still did not speak, but he secretly thought that it was a pity. If it were a little faster, it would instantly crush the beast's heart. No matter how strong a person is, no matter how strong the body is, the heart is still fragile. This trick was still the inspiration she got when she instructed her to steal Kizaru's wallet at the Marin Vando port. It's just that one didn't have the chance to experiment. And this beast can be used as a test object. However, the activation of the penetration ability consumes a lot of physical strength, and Sanchin must activate the ability at the right moment to win with one blow. Okay, then I'll kill you quickly. Your dangerous move is so disturbing. The saber-toothed tiger disappeared, and when it reappeared, it launched a fierce attack. The sudden change of the female navy just now made the battle-hardened Faz Fu catch a hint of danger. It belongs to the beast, and the innate sensitivity is not wrong. So he had to try again. The saber-toothed tiger's sharp claws are attached to the dark-armed color and domineering, like black iron thorns, pouring down on the thin 3000 like a hurricane. Finger gun, Madara. But this time Sanchin didn't evade. Fuzzy Fu wanted to test her ultimate move, so why wasn't Sanchin looking for the chance to kill her? She clenched her fists tightly, her armed color instantly covered her body, her fists fell to the ground like meteors, and countless fist shadows faced the saber-toothed tiger. Double Nail Fist Stars. Chapter 109, Change of Life. Bang, bang, bang. When the beast with a height of several meters showed its fangs and claws, the thin 3000, her choice was to fight. The fists collided, and the blood splashed every time was a new scar on the 3000 fists. This beast in front of him is very strong, with a strong armament color and domineering, and the sharp claws of a saber-toothed tiger. Although armed with domineering and domineering attachments, every collision, the heart-piercing pain from the fist, made the girl grit her teeth. The unequal power competition brings the blood of the fists. But Sanchin knew that she could not be defeated. If she did, her companions behind her would be brutally killed by this ferocious saber-toothed tiger. The pirates who were crushed and beaten by Jimmy watched Faz Fu suppress 3000. Immediately, the momentum was high. Look, Lord Faz Fox suppressed that female navy. Destroy him, Lord Faz Fox. The navy is completely vulnerable, Lord Fuzzy Fox beat her. The 6 sons of the sky are too powerful. Adults must win. The pirates under him cheered, and Jimmy looked worriedly at the 3000 who were fighting with the saber-toothed tiger. Although he was willing to help, the odd-shaped orcs in front of him were also a bit difficult to deal with. Although the combat power is not strong, but the huge number, Jimmy could not escape for a while. Miss Sanchin. Saipan had just used his moonstep to jump into the air, but several arrows flying in the face had to make him fall to the ground again to avoid. There was still a battle in the distance, Ant and Kaido were inseparable, Li Kie and Shanks were still colliding with swords and fighting non-stop. However, Sanchin has no time to take care of others at this time, and she feels that it is almost the same in the face of the frantic attack of the saber-toothed tiger. Since the head-on attack is not the opponent of this beast, then exchange injury for life. Penetrate. Boom boom boom. Fuz Fu's blood boiled, his bloody eyes were tyrannical, and the prey in front of him was obviously defeated. Suddenly, his finger gun penetrated 3000 bodies and hit them all on the ground. 3000 took advantage of the situation to retreat. Huh, do you still have the strength? Navy, Fuz Fu asked jokingly as he watched Sanchin display his abilities again. But why is your ability able to penetrate domineering? What's the price? Sanchin stared at Fuz Fu with a grinning face, and she was out of breath and nodded slowly. Yes, my ability can't penetrate domineering, but your attack is very scattered, and my knowledge has already caught it. Your attack line, and then the ability to cast. But the price is a lot of physical exertion, right? Fuz Fu looked at the panting 3000. She was exhausted and told herself that she avoided the price of her attack. Ha ha ha, am I right, Navy? The saber-toothed tiger leaned over to charge up, and the tiger roared and vibrated in an instant. The whole body became pitch black, and the armed color was domineering, and it directly turned into a black fierce tiger. The sharp fangs turned into two black iron swords aimed at 3000. Sanchin took a deep breath, and pushed his arm-colored hardened arm forward with his right hand, assuming a counterattack posture. He secretly raised his anger in his heart. It's time for a decisive victory. Tooth flash. A thunderous tiger roared, and Fuzz Fu rushed towards the 3000 like an arrow from the string. The strongest saber tooth instantly pierced the right arm of 3000. Blood bursts. Die. Fuzz Fu roared and pressed Sanchian to the ground again. A pair of saber teeth pierced through his arms and reached between his neck. Hee hee. Suddenly, 3000 chuckled, interrupting Fuzzy Fu's attack. He widened his eyes and looked at the bloody female navy under him. Mingming is about to die, and she is already covered in blood. Why is she still smiling? 3000 stared at Fuzz Fu, ignoring his saber-pierced arm. You lost. Fuzzy Fu was stunned. What was she talking about? I lost. She is about to die. How can I lose? Her arm can't stop me at all. I've lost one of her arms. An arm. Suddenly, the saber-toothed tiger seemed to think of something. His eyes became frightened, and he suddenly lowered his head. The female navy's left hand has been inserted into her heart. Ah, you, poof. Before Fuzzy Fu's words could finish, Sanchin smashed his heart violently. Fuzzy Fu spurted out a mouthful of blood, and the blessing of the animal-based devil fruit gave him a huge vitality, and he did not die directly. The fear of death creeps over Fuzz Fu's body, and he will die. I am really going to die. Fuzzy Fu quickly abandoned the 3000 and flew to avoid an escape. Bang! But it hit the ground heavily, and Fuzz Fu looked back, and it was Sanchin's bloody arm that grabbed his tail fiercely. 3000 slammed, and Fuzzy staggered closer to 3000. Double nail fist meteor. At this moment, the petite body burst out with endless power. The fists fell like meteors. Each punch was the forbearance of the 3000, the anger of the 3000, and the unwilling vent of the 3000. The punches burst through the body, and the armed nail fists bloomed recklessly. With the determination of 3000 people to exchange injuries for their lives. Former CP9, now one of the 6 volley sons of the 100 Beast Pirates, Fuzzy Fu. Dead. 3000 won this battle. With the defeat of Fuzz Fu, the rest of the Beast Pirates' momentum also disintegrated. The 2 CP0 members who witnessed the whole process of the battle had huge waves in their hearts. They never thought that Sanchi would win in such a crazy way. Reporting the 5 old stars, Fuzzy Fu died and was killed by Lieutenant Mo Li and Bei Sanchin. One of the givers saw that Fuzz Fu was killed, and Kaido was entangled by Big Mom again. Taking advantage of the gap between the battles, he called Fire Calamity, Jin. Jin, who is far away in the ghost island of Wano, hangs up the phone bug. His eyes are cold. Kaido gets into a tough fight. Fuzz Fu is killed. Katla Island. Jin, how are you going to get there? How come it's time to go now? Quinn yelled. Jin glanced at Quinn and said, then fly over the red soil continent. Are you crazy? Quinn looked at Jin in disbelief. No, all the naval forces are on the battlefield now. Be careful, it's okay. Fire disaster. Jin set out from the country of Wano, ready to fly over the red soil continent, and go to Katra Island to support Kaido. At the same time, Momota carried the famous sword Kimpira and boarded the warship supporting Katra Island. Akainu also ran to Katra Island at full speed. Bang! Li Kie forced Shanks back with a punch. At this time, Shanks was already scarred. You only have one hand. I want to take advantage of you. Li Mo said. Shanks looked at Mo Li and shook his head slowly. Even if you have 2 hands, it may not be your opponent. Mo Li shrugged, stopped talking nonsense, bullied him forward, and slashed with a knife. Shanks raised his knife to block. When seeing Shanks blocking a knife, Li Kie raised his right leg, hit the whip leg, and slapped Shanks on his left waist. Shanks flew more than 100 feet like a cannonball, landing right next to Big Mom and Kaido. Boom! The sudden bombardment made Big Mom and Kaido temporarily stop. After the smoke cleared, they discovered that it was Shanks with red hair. Suddenly a lazy voice sounded. "I'm sorry to disturb you. My name is Mo Lee, and I'm in the Navy." Chapter 110, Battle 3 Emperors. The appearance of Mo Lee made Ant and Kaido temporarily stop. They looked at Mo Lee, just like a navy with a broken knife, not only killed the monster Whitebeard, but also sent Shanks, who was in his prime, flying over. Lee Kie was also watching Big Mom and Kaido. Kaido looks like a person, not to mention the exploding muscles of Chujun, and there are horns on his head. Realize the transfer. Big Mom. Well, as expected of the mother of more than 80 children, it is normal to have children with this general shape. Seeing that Mo Lee was looking at him recklessly, and nodded from time to time, as if he recognized a certain aspect of himself. The ant couldn't hold back her anger any longer. She asked angrily, "Is that you, who took Smoothie?" Lee Mo nodded. "I took your daughter." Before Mo Lee could finish speaking, the ant suddenly yelled, "Napoleon! Mom!" I saw that the pair of horned hats and the big knife agreed, and the blade was a little bigger. Emperor sword, broken blade. At this time, Big Mom is in a state of rage, and destruction are what this female sea emperor is pursuing at this time. There is no room for her to shoot, and she is born with divine power and kills the heroes of the giant clan with her bare hands at the age of 5. His tenacious body and terrifying power were the basis for him to cross the sea and finally sit on the throne of the 4 emperors. Hey hey! Shanks frowned and retreated dozens of meters to avoid Big Mom's attack range. Between the lightning and flint, Mo Lee moved. Facing the glorious majesty that was slashed by Ant's flaming giant blade, Mo Lee's eyes also lit up with fighting intent, and he shouted loudly. "Okay, I'll take it." Above the blade, the silver-white sword gang flickered, and it waved towards the giant flame blade that was cut off. Boom! The roaring sound shook the whole island, and 2 silhouettes with a huge difference in size were at the center, and a circle of huge ripples visible to the naked eye spread rapidly. The sea shook, setting off tens of meters of turbulent waves, and the surrounding space was turbulent. Just as Mo Lee and Auntie collided by force, Kaido, who was standing not far from the two, looked at Mo Lee with red eyes, as if Mo Lee was a delicacy he had longed for a long time. Ant, seeing that her attack was blocked, no matter how much she increased her strength, she would not be able to gain half a point. She knew that the report in this newspaper that the killing of the white-bearded navy was not something that the world government could exaggerate. Well, little navy, you have a lot of backbone. In the gap between the 2 swords, the ant's tyrannical eyes stared at Mo Lee condescendingly, sneeringly. The moment the voice fell, she withdrew her sword, raised her left hand to the sky, and thundercloud Zeus wrapped around it. He swallowed thunder in his palm and slapped it towards Mo Lee. Thunder. Mo Lee looked at Ant's thunder palm that was attacking him, frowned slightly, shook his body instantly, and dodged away. Although not afraid of that kind of attack, but there is no need to hard connect. After all, he is not a masochist. Boom. The place where Mo Lee was just now was blasted into a big hole by the ant, which shows that the power of this blow is extraordinary. Navy, it's a bit of a bummer. Seeing that Mo Lee was dodging, Auntie sneered disdainfully. Ling, this guy is my prey. Don't get in the way. Kaido roared loudly at Big Mom while carrying the iron rod. Kaido, do you want to be killed by me? The ant's eyes were gloomy and her tone was not good. Humph, stop talking nonsense. You just fought, you should know that this navy is not so easy to kill, let's go together. Shanks looked at Big Mom and Kaido, who were still arguing at this time, and then looked at the unscathed navy. He was restless in his heart. Big Mom's brief fight with Mo Lee made her unaware of Mo Lee's strength, and he had been fighting with him for the longest time. He knew the terrifying strength of this navy. What, redhead, are you underestimating me? Shanks, remarks immediately angered Auntie. It's just a navy. To deal with him, do you need to join forces with others? Kaido also looked at Shanks with a gloomy expression. At this moment, Molly spoke, and he quite agreed with Shanks' words. Yes, come on together. Huh, boy, stop joking. Kaido grinned, and his face like a ghost showed the ferocious 12, little devil. You are too arrogant. At the same time as he spoke, the several-meter-long iron rod called 8 Fasting Precepts was raised high. Little devil, go to hell. Following Kaido's low roar, the pitch-black iron rod was wrapped with crackling cyan lightning, bursting the air, and with a howling wind, it suddenly smashed down at Molly. Thundering, gossip. Facing Kaido's powerful blow, he clenched his saber in his hand, and the corner of Lemo's mouth turned down, stepped forward, and gave a low drink. Ha! Raise the knife to cut. Boom! The deafening sonic boom roared, and the power was not weaker than the collision with the ant just now. This kid. Kaido felt the mouth of his hands holding 8 fastings go numb, and he looked at the young navy in front of him, who was much thinner than him. Kaido seems to understand why Whitebeard was killed by him. In addition to Whitebeard's old age and frailty, this navy does have incredible strength. Ha! Just when the two were at a stalemate, Shanks swung out a sword, and a flying slash slashed towards Molly. Molly glanced at Shanks, and while swinging Kaido away with his right hand, he slashed towards the slash and dissipated him. Shanks' sudden intervention was like a signal for the big pirates to join forces. Although they are all strong and have the pride of the strong, they are even more pirates. Molly was about to attack Shanks when a trembling roar came from his ears. Heaven! Fire! The ant grabbed the sun Prometheus and threw it into the sky. In a flash, the sun Prometheus turned into a huge fireball. Looking up from a distance, the Prometheus at this time was really like the sun. Boom towards Molly. Molly's eyes were calm, his wrists flipped, he raised his saber, and slashed towards the huge fireball. Sigh. A huge white crescent slash directly slashed Prometheus, and the huge fireball split into two. Ah, Prometheus! The ant exclaimed when she saw that the sun Prometheus was cut open. Mom! Prometheus also shouted in fear, and instantly became smaller and returned to his ant. Repaired by Big Mom with soul power. Hey, you have so many tricks. Lemo looked at the three of them and sneered. Ah! Ah! Kaido turned into a dragon on the spot, and the huge blue dragon beast soared into the sky and submerged into the clouds. Big Mom jumped on the thundercloud Zeus. Prometheus turned into a flame and wrapped around Auntie's body. From the moment Kaido turned into a dragon, Lee Kie was stunned. As for what happened to Big Mom, he didn't care at all. Damn it, really Nima has a dragon. Molly looked at the looming Kanglong Kaido in the black clouds, and muttered to himself. Licking his lips, Lee Kie looked at Shanks and asked. Why don't you change something? Chapter 111, 1,000 feet away. When the peak of combat power in this sea fully shows its posture, this battle of fate is about to usher in the craziest moment. The famous knife griffin is in the hands of Shanks, swallowing the razor, and the armed color domineering blessing is even more sharp. The two giants in the air looked like demons and dragons. Lee also fought the three emperors alone with an invincible posture. This battle kicked off with a hot breath from Kanglong Kaido. The black cloud rolled, the dragon opened its huge fangs, and the flames overflowed between its teeth. Heat. The dragon's breath was like a fire in the sky, and the huge flame went to the shock wave and went straight to Molly. Fuck. It's a bunker. Dragon's breath, dig a slot. On behalf of the Zodiac, Lao Su has recognized the existence of the dragon, although I belong to the dog. Molly looked at Kaido in the form of a blue dragon, spit out hot breath, his eyes were shining, chattering, and he looked like he had never seen the world before. His mouth was long-winded, but his hands were not slow. When the flame energy group slammed into it, he waved the knife up, the silver-white knife light flashed, and the crescent moon slashed and split the flame heat in half. Wheo! After splitting the heat, without waiting for Molly to breathe, the ant held the knife in both hands and slashed down with a single move of mighty country, and the overbearing slash came in an instant. Ha! Molly let out a low voice, raised the blade and turned down sharply, slashing heavily on top of the mighty kingdom, slash. Boom! The two attacks were broken one after another, but the remaining power remained unabated. Most of the coast of Katla Island was destroyed, and the forest on the island was raging. The Navy also has some amazing characters. The ant looked at Molly and laughed sarcastically. Lily grinned when he heard the words. You are also very good. After all, your fertility is really not covered. Ah, you are courting death. The ant was instantly enraged by Molly. Swooping down from the air, bullying in front of him, he raised his sword and slashed. When the two knives collided, Molly swung away Napoleon's broadsword, leapt into the air, and punched his left hand in front of Auntie. Bang! Ah! One punch knocked Big Mom off Thundercloud Zeus and landed on the beach in the distance. Molly looked at his left hand and couldn't help but admire. This monster old woman, what's wrong with her body? Is it really a man of steel? Just when Molly was in a daze, Shanks came with a knife. When the knives collided, and there were ripples. Even Molly could not help but admire these monsters. After fighting incessantly, they didn't show any signs of fatigue. Brothers, you are really monsters. Shanks slashed hard and put it on top of Molly's knife. During the wrestling, he said, in comparison, you are a monster. Molly pouted. There are no nutritious words. After Molly said that, he whipped his leg to the side, and Shanks also raised his left leg high and his armed collar instantly hardened to resist. Bang! Shanks was kicked by Molly in the direction where Big Mom fell. Huh! Molly spit out a turbid breath and looked at the sky-blue dragon. This dragon doesn't seem very serious. What about the hind legs? Molly was a little stunned. He was in the cloud, didn't you see it? Or is there really no hind legs? Molly, do you want to follow me? Let's turn this world upside down together. Kaido's ferocious dragon head bowed down, staring at Molly and said. Li Kie looked at Kaido speechlessly. He was fighting. Hey, is it really okay to recruit yourself so suddenly? If people can't beat them, they will join. If you can't beat them, let them join. Molly looked at the pair of dragon eyes and smiled casually. Dude, I am a Navy. Molly slashed with his knife, and the huge slash instantly hit the blue dragon Kaido's head, and Kaido's head was slashed upwards. Limo frowned and looked at Kanglong. He was not hacked to death. What's going on? Molly raised the knife, looked at it, and fell into self-doubt. Why wasn't he hacked to death? Is it because of that tyrannical domineering? It should be, domineering. It really is a strange power that is troublesome. Little brat, you totally pissed me off. Die, bad wind. Jukong spit out countless wind blades, and the storm was wrapped in sharp wind blades, slashing the storm and falling from the sky, hitting Molly. Limo nodded. Since it's a dragon, it's normal to call for wind and rain. Molly's wrist trembled, and when he swung the saber, a bright white slash smashed into the storm. Suddenly, a familiar voice came into Molly's ears, and Molly turned his head to look, and saw that Big Mom, who had just kicked away, was slashing at the naval camp where Sanqian and Jimmy were. Sanqian's body was red with blood, and there were 2 shocking holes in his arms. Big Knife, Jimmy stood in front of everyone, facing the Big Mom of the 4 emperors. His eyes were full of madness. He activated his ability, inserted his hands into the ground, and built a high earth wall in front of him, hoping to stop Big Mom's knife. Navy, die! Big Mom roared violently, and looked at the weak Navy. In her eyes, the Navy was like an ant, and it could be destroyed with a flip of a hand. Emperor's sword. Boom, boom, boom. The huge flame blade slashed on the thick earth wall, and the earth wall built by Jimmy with all his strength was instantly destroyed by Big Mom. Jimmy looked desperately at the big knife that was so close at hand. At this moment, she was at the end of her force and was defenseless. Old woman, how dare you? Seeing the strength of his legs, Limo rushed towards Big Mom with extreme speed. The Big Mom blade has arrived, it's too late. Mowgli's eyes were splitting. A distance of 100 meters was nothing to him, but at this time, the distance between these 100 meters was like a moat. When Li Qian watched in disbelief as the one-armed man raised his knife and stood in front of Jimmy, who was slumped on the ground. Red-haired Shanks, isn't he a pirate? Red-haired boy, are you helping the Navy? Big Mom stared fiercely at Shanks, and his position as a pirate actually stood in front of the Navy. Don't kill indiscriminately, Big Mom. While Shanks was talking, he flicked the broadsword Napoleon. Old woman, die. While speaking, Li Qian was already in front of Big Mom. The ant hurriedly retracted the knife, took a step back, and made a gesture of rejecting the enemy. She had already fought against Mowgli before, and she already knew that this young Navy was only stronger or weaker than her. Mowgli waved his sword, plain and simple, but simply slashed at Big Mom. When Big Mom's momentum reaches its peak, the Overlord domineering arrogance wraps around the giant blade-long sword, raising the sword to greet him. Boom! Napoleon's bonnet shattered. Big Mom flew hundreds of feet upside down. Mowgli's sword continued unabated, his figure flickered, and he raised his sword to fight again. Another simple knife. Big Mom roamed with thunder and lightning all over his body. In the panic, his arms were hardened by the armed color, and the Overlord color was wrapped around and blessed. Boom! A knife split the sea. Big Mom's right arm was broken, and he flew thousands of feet away. Thundercloud Zeus and Sun Prometheus were both annihilated under the blade of the blade. Dragons have inverse scales, and so do people. Touch the lore. Limo was staring at the Big Mom who fell into the sea thousands of feet away. Change to one hand, holding the knife with both hands, raise the knife and chop down. Shocking slash, open the sea of talent. Go after Big Mom. Mowgli turned his head away, looked at Jimmy and Sanchin, and smiled casually. Aren't you scared by the old woman? Sanchin and Jimmy shook their heads, and Jimmy turned to look at Shanks with a dignified expression. Limo also understood what Jimmy meant. Go away, our Jimmy owes you a life, and I'll pay you back. Limo said to Shanks. Really, that's really earned, Shanks laughed. Turn around and go. Chapter 112, Bump. The righteousness of pirates. Maybe, they're really are adventurers, but it has nothing to do with Limo. Shanks saved Jimmy's life, and then Lee will pay him back. The favor has been repaid, see you next time, it's just a knife. Limo looked at Sanchin's injury, although he was very worried, but when he met Sanchin's determined and joyful gaze, he knew that this little girl did what she expected. Seeing Mowgli's worried eyes, Sanchian shook his head gently and smiled softly. Indicate that you are fine. Limo also respected her and didn't say anything more. It turned to Saipan and said, you take everyone on board and leave here. Ah! Major General Mowgli. The Navy looked at Mowgli behind him in horror, and the Kanglong Kaiduo hit the bad wind again and rolled up the wind blade. Mowgli turned around and slashed the wind blade. He continued, you guys go, this guy has a huge range of moves. Then looked at Sanchin, go and heal the wound. 3000 nodded obediently. Limo nodded, patted Jimmy's head, and smiled, it's hard work. Jimmy shook his head sadly. Mowgli turned to look at the Sky Kanglong, this guy's skin is a bit thick. Little devil, it's a pity for you to be a navy. Follow me to conquer this world. Kaido roared in the sky, complimenting Mowgli's combat power, and at this time, he sent an invitation to Mowgli. This guy is really cute. Mowgli looked at Kaido, who was stepping on the flames in the air, with a playful expression and chuckled. No, it's too dangerous to follow you, in case a monkey beats you up one day, and another child cramps you. And was ridden by the old monk. Too dangerous. Kaido Dragon's eyes were gloomy, and he made no secret of his murderous intent, roaring like thunder. Are you refusing? I saw Kaido's huge dragon body, as agile and swift as a snake, constantly hovering in the air, rolling up a violent hurricane. The group of people who had just boarded the warship looked at the circling dragon above the clouds, and were speechless in surprise. That is the attitude of the 4 Emperor Kaido. But this time is obviously not the time to be amazed. The gust of wind from the giant sky swept the whole island, and the warship was blown up and down. Hurry up and get out of here. Saipan quickly commanded the helmsman to sail the ship, temporarily staying away from this dangerous battlefield. The giant sky opened a spiral, and several tornadoes roared out. The tornado that shot straight into the sky was like a vortex, pulling black thunderclouds, and it was like a natural disaster in the end of the world. Seeing the giant sky and attracting celestial phenomena, Limo not only praised, "It's really like a natural disaster." The wind was howling, and seeing the wind getting stronger and stronger, Limo glanced at the warship that was swaying in the storm. The knife gang climbed the entire blade body, and the cold light of the saber blade was clear and sharp. Li Kie leapt into the air, his arms crossed. A gleam of silver sword light flashed past, and Wu Chu's aura shot up to the sky. The huge slash is like a ring of air waves. Directly pointing at the circling dragon, the dark cloud tornado. Wherever the slash passed, the wind dissipated and the clouds dissipated, and the mighty dragon crashed to the ground. Ah! That's the power, the Kanglong who fell into the flames roared. The figure changed rapidly, a storm passed by, and a flame road appeared in the sea of fire. Kaido's strongest human beast form is revealed. The pitch-black 8 fasting precepts surrounded the thunder and lightning. Kaido laughed grimly, "Little devil. It's this power. Hey, sick." Moli looked at Kaido, who was like a demon, and not only cursed and complained. The form of this little dragon seems to be more suitable for fighting, and the scales on Kaido's arms seem to be very hard. At this time, Kaido was burning with blood and fighting spirit. Ha! With a loud roar, Kaido jumped into the air, and the attack of this attack was launched from the air first. The pitch-black iron rod, the thunder and lightning, and the tyrannical spirit erupted wantonly. King Kong Dysprosium. The Overlord's strange force exploded out, and a strong shock wave slammed down on Moli on the ground. Limo looked at the shock wave, and slashed backwards, slashing horizontally. A slash hit the shock wave. Boom! The two energies stalemate for a moment, then dissipated. Moli disappeared in place, and appeared in front of Kaido the next moment, slashing from top to bottom. Kaido reacted immediately, clasping the 8 fasts with both hands, and charging up to block. When the knives and sticks collided, deafening. With one blow, the sky changed dramatically, and the black clouds gathered and rolled, causing thunder. Tien, I cracked first. At the same time, Yan Calamity Jin was at full speed and had already reached the Red Earth continent. As soon as he reached the sky above the Red Earth continent, Jin in the form of a toothless pterosaur looked down at the earth, or his blood vessels trembled, once again looking at the hometown where the ancestors lived 800 years ago. Jin hesitated. It was this hesitation that a shocking slash rose from the ground and slashed towards Jin in the air. Not good. Jin was annoyed by his distraction, and immediately slashed and dodged in the air, dodging this slash. Jin didn't hesitate, burst into full speed, and ascended again to hide in the clouds. In a high-rise building in Marijoa, Cha Dolphin looked at the tall man in a black formal suit next to him. T. Dolphin said, I didn't expect that Jin would have the courage to leap here. The man snorted coldly, it's just trash who dare not fight. Chado shook his head and said, it's okay, he is probably supporting Kaido, but Tautu has already set off, she will intercept Jin. True to what the T-Dolphin said, Jin had just crossed the Red Soil continent when he ran into Tautu, who was on a warship supporting Katra Island. The famous sword Jinpyra, wrapped around armed with a domineering look, sent Tautu into the sky with a 6-style moon step. When a knife hit the claws of the toothless pterosaur, Jin's heart was extremely irritable. He had just escaped the man's attack, and then he bumped into this difficult woman. With flying slashes and moon steps, Tautu's high-altitude combat ability is enough to fight against pterosaurs. The Sing Queen pirate ship, led by Katakuri, was advancing at full speed. No matter how you turn, you will find love. It was colliding with the naval fleet led by Aokiji and Kayaburu, who were supporting Katra Island. Bachi Changu Yu. At this time, Katla Island was half sunk under the frantic battle between Lee Kie and Kaido. Every time the two collided, the ground would shatter, and the razor would also shatter the rocky ground as it roamed. Boom. 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 Strength collides with strength, and the Overlord collides with the sword. While Kaido was enjoying the battle, he was secretly shocked that this young navy was really powerful. Ah! Knives and sticks wrestled. Kaido retreated steeply and opened his mouth wide. Heat. Moli turned over to dodge, and the burst of heat slammed the mountain behind Moli. Moli just touched the ground with both feet, and then rushed towards Kaido in an instant, and the saber stabbed out. Thundering. Gossip. The Overlord color wrapped around the iron rod, attracting countless dark thunders. Boom. The knife and stick collided in the air, and the group of weapons between the weapons triggered the green thunder energy, which was the stirring of the domineering and the knife. Boom. The two separated again, and in just a moment, the two collided again. Boom. Boom. The fourth offensive has arrived. At this time, Kaido is in the air, clenching the iron rod in both hands, dancing rapidly, and the dark thunder crackles, like a blooming death lotus. Zhang 3 Yin Na Luo. Surrender greed, hatred, ignorance, and get rid of the poison of the three worlds, which will lead you to fall into the endless hell of the void. Seeing this extremely powerful killer move, Moli laughed again and again. The blade has turned, and the blade seems to be solid. Raise your sword. Chapter 113, Face. Tautu stood on the bow of the warship, looked at Jin flying into the distance, and shouted loudly, chasing the pirates, and at the same time telegraphing the warring states marshal, the fire disaster. Jin has already flew over the red soil continent to support Kaido. Tautu frowned and looked at Jin in the form of a toothless pterosaur, thinking to himself, didn't Chato and him notice Jin? Shouldn't be possible. With the strength of the two, it is impossible for Jin to fly across the red soil continent so easily. Or did he have other plans? The strength of guarding Mary Joa is by no means as simple as the two alternate generals and the giant lieutenant. At this time, Aokiji and Kizaru, who met the Big Mom pirates, staged the same chasing naval battle as Akainu. With Kizaru around, the long-range naval guns of the warships could not be heard at all. Regardless of the attack distance, penetration, and power of the Kyabu laser, it is far superior to naval guns. Aokiji looked at the tattered queen chanting in front of him, hesitantly said to Kizaru, let's fight quickly, Big Mom is not here, I control their actions, you directly destroy them. Kizaru shrugged and didn't speak. Obviously, he didn't want to waste time with them here. Suddenly the surroundings became cold, and the green pheasant rose into the sky, shooting icicles from both hands and falling straight into the sea. The Ice Age era. Boom. When the two collided, the ground cracked. The fierce battle was in full swing, and Kaido saw that a single blow could not be completed, and the second round of offensive followed. The jet-black iron rod rubbed Moli's saber and slid to the left, slammed sideways, and the thick dragon tail swept across Moli's torso. Seeing this, Moli sneered, 5 limbs are developed. Moli withdrew the knife and took Kaido's tail with his left hand. You still want to kick me with the tail? It's amazing to have a tail, right? Bang! Under the great force of Kaido's beating, Lee Kie pushed the ground horizontally with both feet. However, it is also firmly grasping and sweeping the tail of the dragon. The long knife was inserted on the ground, and the dragon's tail was imprisoned with both hands. Boom! 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 One after another. Lee Kie grabbed Kaido's tail, and flew left and right, smashing to the ground. Ah! Kaido is like a whip rope, and every time he smashes, he slams into the ground, screaming loudly. Finally, Kaido's strong muscle strength allowed him to stabilize his body, and when he stood on his feet, he was about to exert his strength to get rid of Lee Kie. Moli was also taken aback when he saw this. This guy's body is very strong. Then sneered, but it's useless. Pulling his arms hard, Kaido staggered back, and Moli let go of his tail, clasped his fists, and charged with artillery. Bang! The two fists smashed firmly on Kaido's back, and the blue, steel-like dragon scales were smashed by Moli's iron fist. Blood burst out, and Kaido was blasted away like a cannonball, hitting the beach. Moli raised the knife and flashed to Kaido's side, raising the knife and slashing down. Target Kaido's right arm. Kaido was horrified, and before he had time to think about it, Bajiji fought hard to block, but not to block Moli's blade. After the confrontation, Kaido has understood that the armed domineering can't stop Moli's blade at all, and the only thing that can block Moli's knife is the entanglement of the Overlord. But now, the blade is near, how can I stop it? The iron rod hit the silver-white blade, causing the blade to deviate upwards. When? Laugh. Ah. The long knife that was smashed by the iron rod did not cut Kaido's arm, but went up. Cut off Kaido's horn with one knife. Moli was shocked. Looking at the falling dragon horn, I can't help but think of the tusk of the big stupid elephant Jack. Assets increased again. Just when Moli was stunned, Kaido endured the pain and his body flashed. Instantly changed the form of the blue dragon, stepping on the flame cloud and soaring into the sky. Kaido was terrified in his heart, and the severe pain of the dragon's horn being cut pierced his heart. If you don't leave, you will definitely be killed. That old Lingling escape is a matter of life and death. I can't die. One Piece, the war has not yet started. I want to witness, participate, and turn the world upside down. I can't die here. No, Kaido is going to run. Moli was a little panicked. This was a fucking mess. The whole army was dispatched for the trouble he caused, and 3 and 4 emperors came. Let go 1. Chop 1. One more escape. Where will my face go? Moli jumped high, looked at the Kanglong from afar, and slashed out with both hands. Tilde. A huge crescent slash went after Kaido. Kaido sensed the danger coming from behind him, and the huge dragon was dodging and dodging in the air. Kaido, who was able to avoid the slash, flew at an extremely fast speed without thinking. Lee Kie landed and looked at Kaido, who was no longer there, and then looked at the island that was about to be silent. He pursed his lips and thought for a while. No, I can't stay here, the momentum is so huge. The 4 emperors came to 3, and they had a fight, and they were all gone. Anyway, I have to catch one. Kaido, no, this guy can fly. Red hair, no, the one who promised to let him go, the front foot just let go. Just grab it with the back foot, isn't this just kidding? Big Mom, bro, although I don't know if he's dead or not, even if he's dead, if he confirms it, it's considered a cross. Having made up his mind, Moli glanced at the direction where the Big Mom was slashed, put the knife in its sheath, stepped on the surface of the sea and ran away. As soon as Moli left the front foot, 2 masked figures appeared on the back foot. The 2 looked at Moli and said nothing for a long time. Finally the cat-face masked man broke the calm. This man's combat power, can it be compared to that lord? The clown-masked man snorted coldly. Don't talk about that adult casually. Report to the 5 old stars. The red hair left, and Kaido escaped. I don't know if Big Mom is alive or dead. After an hour, Akainu came to the island of Katla, which was about to sink. His face was ashen, and the island was empty. Boom boom, boom boom. Kacha. The voice of the warring states came. Sakazuki, have you been to Katra? I'm here, Marshal of the Warring States period, what's going on? Sengoku said. Kaido escaped, and the red hair also left. Big Mom was defeated by Moli. I don't know if they were alive or dead. Aokiji and Kyabu also defeated the Big Mom Pirates pirate ship. Sakazuki, you contacted Tautu. She is now chasing Jin from the Beast Pirates and rushing to Katra Island. You work with Tautu to arrest Jin. Kacha. Akainu is very confused. Obviously he is the closest to Katla Island. He has been busy for 2 days, and he has not caught a pirate, even the pirates of the Big Mom Pirates who have been chasing him for a long time. It was also missed by Aokiji and Kizaru. However, Moli was able to defeat the 3 of them, which Akainu didn't expect. He once again had a new understanding of Moli's combat power. In the office of the warship of the Warring States, the Warring States hung up the phone with a gloomy face. Lieutenant General Crane said silently, the high-level worries are not unreasonable. Kaido has involved many allied countries and cannot be moved for the time being. Warring States nodded and sighed. Forget it, the problem can only be left to the next marshal. At this time, Li Kie had already run to an unknown island. After stepping into the town, he stood on the wide central street. Where is this?